come on down. And that's how it all started. So again, I recognize the good fortune I had in being able to say, I can do this for no pay. But the good news for anyone who needs the pay is that teams now pay interns.
Yeah. And by the way, everybody here has to do some form of an internship at the graduate level. And there is if you're doing it for credit.
Right. That's tantamount to getting paid because you're getting a benefit. You're getting a value.
Correct. Exactly. So, so Al Davis, I mean, so when you're in New York and you grow up in New York and you hear these Al Davis stories, you think, man, this guy he's a little wacky. Now here, you're a female, he's a young, law student. How did you get into this guy's good graces?
Well, number one, I'm sure, there may be people on this call that are Raider fans. There may be people on this call that hate the Raiders. I see that New England logo behind you, Dave.
I'll explain.
There may be people on this call that respect, admire Al, or people on this call who couldn't stand him. But if we're being intellectually honest, I hope that we can all agree he did something that no one else in the NFL and perhaps in sports in general was doing back in the early part of the mid 80s. And before that, he hired without regard to race, gender, ethnicity, or any other individuality, which has no bearing whatsoever on whether one can do a job. And I will forever appreciate the opportunity he afforded me because there was no other owner in the NFL at the time who was going to hire a girl. And that's what I was. I was a kid. How we ended up working together for almost 30 years, I think, is in large part due to the biggest misconception about Al. The biggest misconception is that you couldn't disagree with him. If that were the case, I would have been fired roughly 2 weeks into my job when I told him he was wrong. He walked into an office. I was sitting there with a colleague. He ripped into this guy. I mean, like I would imagine a velociraptor would have ripped into its prey. And after listening for kind of a while, like maybe he was ripping into this guy, I don't know, 10 minutes, 5 minutes, 15 minutes, whatever it was. I said, excuse me, you're wrong. And his head spun around. It was like Linda Blair in The Exorcist, only there was no green stuff coming out. And I said, and he looked at me like, what did you, like the expression on his face was incredulity. And I said, look, if the facts upon which you were basing your conclusion were accurate, well, then that would be a fair conclusion. But you're basing your conclusion on inaccurate data, inaccurate information. And he yelled and I yelled and he yelled and we just screamed back and forth. And I didn't know it at the time, but a bunch of employees had gathered in the hallway outside my office or outside the office in which we were sitting. It wasn't my office. I didn't have an office. I worked in my office was a desk in a closet. But one of the women even brought a bunch of cartons because she thought I'd have to pack my stuff. And by the way, I didn't have any stuff. But after we argued for a while. And afterwards, kind of after a heated argument, he looked at me and said, oh, okay, I got it. I gotcha. And we moved on. And that set the tone for our relationship for almost 30 years, where I disagreed with him more than I agreed with him. But at the end of the day, I recognized that it was his business. He owned it. I didn't own it. So he had final say, and it was my job to implement his decision and make the best of it I could, even if I didn't agree with it.
Okay. All right. So your story actually reminded me, and Rob, by the way, Rob Adams has joined us. He was on the Clubhouse show when we had you on the radio maybe a year or so ago. And I know Rob will appreciate this, but your story reminded me of the Mary Tyler Moore show. And these guys won't get it. They're too young, like you said. But there's an episode where Lou Grant says to Mary Tyler Moore, you got spunk, kid. And she smiles and he says, I hate spunk.
I actually remember that episode.
Yeah. Yep. So, okay, now you brought it up. I was going to save this to the end, and I wasn't going to reference that you're seeing about I married a Patriots fan, okay? And this is what I've done to my kids. I've tortured them with that upper team there, which you kind of told them how to find the end zone yesterday. So, so I was going to end with this, but since you brought up the Patriots, let's talk about what happened in that game. And I was happy. I was thrilled because I really loathe the Patriots. And in fact, the last Super Bowl, I went to the movies. I said to my wife, I cannot watch this team in the Super Bowl again. So I went and watched Green Book. But the tuck rule.
Yeah.
That
Huh.
play, I
This,
mean, it really turned, it made the Patriots into basically what they became, and really stole the game from, well, in my opinion, from the Raiders.
well, I'll start by saying it was the wrong decision, and I'll go into all the legal reasons why.
Charles
Um,
Woodson.
uh, but who said that? Wait, was that
Tyrell.
Tyrell? Yeah, Woodson
Nah,
and I will tell you this. After I'll flash to the end of the. Well, I'll tell you the Charles Woodson story at the end of this. I actually have a tremendous relationship with the Patriot organization. I have a great relationship with Bill Belichick. I served on a league committee that Jonathan Kraft headed. So, notwithstanding that, I will never, ever, 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 ever believe that was anything other than a fumble, and will go to my grave knowing that it was overturned wrongfully. I do have tremendous respect what Robert and Jonathan have done for that organization, because, that stolen game aside, they have built a champion, and I think Bill Belichick is the best head coach of all time. Um, but yeah, we're sitting there. You're not allowed when we're the visiting team, and we were sitting in an area of the press box that was marked for visiting team staff, because there was a suite, but Al was in the suite with his family, and I was in and out, yeah, no, Al was in a little room in a visiting team area in the press box, and I was in and out of where Al was, and I was in and out of where our staff was in the press box, and I was going back and forth, and I was doing some entertaining of our business people and our limited partners. But when that moment happened, I was with our staff in the area they were assigned to sit in the press box, and you're not allowed to cheer when you're in a press box. There's a rule against that. So we see the fumble. My colleagues and I remember our general counsel was there, our CFO was there. We're grabbing arms and we're like shaking each other, because you're not allowed to cheer or you'll get yelled at. But we knew we won the game. We won the game because, oh God, I'm getting myself all worked up again. But then all of a sudden, I realized they were gonna review this call. And I turned around, and the then director of officiating for the league, Art McNally, who was like 80 years old, was sitting behind me. And I looked at him. Am I allowed to swear on this call, or do you want
Go
me to
ahead,
change?
go for it. Absolutely.
Okay. I looked at Art and I said, you better call 911, because if you overturn this fucking call, I am going to have a fucking stroke. And Sports Illustrated ultimately wrote this feature on me, and someone told that story. And in the Sports Illustrated story, it said that Amy said, you better call 911, because if you overturn this fucking call, I'm going to have a fucking heart attack. So I looked at my husband, and that was the first time I'd remembered that quote. And I looked at my husband, I said, I did not say that. I did not say that. I'm calling Sports Illustrated right now. This is defamatory. I didn't say that. And my husband lets me go on and on and on. And he's like, well, before you call the lawyers for SI, let me tell you what you actually said. You actually said fucking stroke, not fucking heart attack. So I let it go. But they overturned the call. And Tyrell, you mentioned Charles Woodson. We left the stadium. And look, I get it, everybody. I get it. Everybody always says, Amy, you still had time. You still could have stopped them. You still could have made a stop. You had time to win the game. If you could have seen the faces on our players and coaches on the sideline, and all of us in the press box, it was like our hearts had been ripped from our chest. I knew we wouldn't go on to win. And that, it's not a good reflection on us. We could have gone on to win. But the other thing about it is, they talk about football as a game of inches and a game of seconds. That play happened just inside of 2 minutes remaining. Had it happened 10 seconds earlier, game over, our ball, because the Patriots were out of timeouts and they couldn't have challenged it. And thank you, Dave. Now that I've gotten myself so worked up, what do you want to talk about now?
Well, Amy, like I said, you're talking to a Jets fan, so I mean.
Oh, wait, Tyrell, the Charles Woodson story. So we get to the FBO where we had a chartered plane, because of course we filled it up. So we're there waiting to get on our plane. And I just will always remember Charles and I locked eyes. And for probably 2 minutes, we just stared at each other, eyeball to eyeball. And we both remember it the same way. Neither one of us had a word to say. We just stood there and stared at one another. It was a moment.
Interesting. Yeah. And to your point, and Rob and people who know me know this, I have really deep, this is a business program. And we tell people this is not about being fans. This is about the business of sports. So I have a lot of respect for the crafts. I mean, what they did just with that, I mean, because I used to, when I was in school, I used to go to the games in New England. I mean, that place was a dump, you know, building that stadium and that area around it, and what he's done, he's a great owner. And I mean, I just can't stand them winning anymore. So, but at the end of the day, you know, that's on me. So, so Amy, tell us, I mean, so is the game better now? I mean, a lot of rule changes. I mean, I grew up, I was 8 years old when the Jets won the Super Bowl, and they sold their soul for that. And I've been, that's it. Now we're on a 100-year rebuild. But at the end of the day, there's so many changes to the game, whether it's the hits, replay. Is the game better, do you think?
It's different. I think the changes had to be made for the longevity and the future of the game. Look, I'm a defense girl. I would rather go to a game that was 9-7 or 7-6. We won a game 7-6. I thought it was the best game ever. I like that better than 40-37. I'm in the minority. All of the league's data and polling shows that the vast majority of people love scoring, love offense. But beyond that, you guys looking to go into the business of sports all know about all the current, not only discussion and literature and debate, but of the litigation, I'm sure, and the liabilities associated with the potential of CTE and concussions. And so that which the league has done is really twofold. A lot of the rule changes. Look, you don't have guys, there's no more forearm shiver. There's no more just totally decking someone. All these protections are in, and they're twofold. They're, you'd like to believe first and foremost that they're about the health and well-being of the athlete, but they're also about the economics of the game. I mean, you saw yesterday, Cincinnati lost Joe Burrow for, at a minimum, till next spring. They don't know if he'll be ready to come back in time for training camp next summer or not. That's a very, very, very considerable investment. So the rule changes are, one would hope, primarily for the health-related reasons, but there's also financial reasons for them as well.
Okay, what about officiating? Tell me your thoughts on officiating. A lot of people think officials should be, hired full time, training year round, etc. It kind of drives me. The replay is great, but when you're sitting there and it's like so obvious, to us, the user, the end user, the watcher, that okay, this is what happened, and yet 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 5 minutes later, they're still trying to. It's like, come on, guys, what are you looking at? I mean,
I guess my thoughts are severalfold. It's imperfect. It's not science. There's going to be human error. Look, if you've ever watched a game from the sideline, and if you join a football team and have the opportunity to do so, I encourage you to spend some time on the sideline, because the first time I ever watched anything from the sideline, the speed at which the game is played, the speed, the impact, the power, the collisions, the size of the men. Imagine being on the field with that, having to run as fast as you could to keep up with that, but staying out of everyone's way so you, A, don't in any way impede or impact the play, and B, don't get killed. It's an imperfect science. It's not even a science. So I guess I have several views. Number one, you got to accept that it's not going to be perfect. Number two, if technology can be used to right a clear wrong, it should. Oh, by the way, speaking of clear wrong, going back to the Tuck rule, the rule for replay, and I bring it up now because this is where I'm going on this question. The rule for replay is it's got to be indisputable visual evidence. The visual evidence has to be, if you were in a court of law, clear and convincing, beyond question, indisputable. There ain't nothing indisputable about. We're still disputing that call 20 years later, however many years later. So by definition, it's not indisputable. So I do like the embracing of technology, because if you can see, for example, that a foot was out of bounds that was ruled inbounds, or vice versa, and you can use replay to do that, do that. If you can use replay to see whether a ball crossed the plane of the goal, do that. That's objective, whether someone was inbounds or out of bounds. As for subjective calls, I think more deference belongs to the officials on the field. I do like an idea that a defensive back, that Patrick Peterson, I don't know how many of you are familiar with Patrick, but he made a comment a week or two ago. He was called for defensive pass interference, and he realized from the position of the official who called the DPI that there was no way possible that the official could have seen what he claims to have seen. And he had a conversation with the official. He didn't confront him. It wasn't an angry conversation. It was a very collegial, how did you see that? What did you see? Where were you positioned? Patrick realized there's no way the official could have seen what he called, and he suggested to the league adding another official on the field. And I like that idea because given the size of the players and the speed of the players, adding an official makes sense. As to full-time officials, if the data shows or suggests that that can make them better, then I'm absolutely in favor of it because league economics support it. And especially now with the evolution of legalized gambling and the league embracing it and having gambling sponsors on stadiums and teams have gambling sponsors, you've got to remove not just impropriety, but the appearance of any impropriety and minimize bad calls. So I think if that can be done with full-time officials, why not give it a try, spend the money, and if adding another official can help, do it, and use replay as much as you can for anything which is not subjective.
You know, it's wonderful. It's a great answer, especially they threw in a lot of good business terms there, and the analytics, obviously, that's a hot thing right now, and obviously something that has also morphed over the years. You were with the team for 30 years, a move from Oakland to LA, back to Oakland, now to Vegas. So, I mean, it's a business. We all know it's a business, and at the end of the day, you know. The goal of the people here, these students, you know, is to break into that business. Not maybe not the NFL, but it's sports in general, the sports business. So, where, you know, from your perspective, where should they be focusing their attention?
Well, to the extent that you have the ability within your life and your lifestyle to do this. And let me make clear what I'm saying. Not everybody has the ability to move for a job. They may be involved with family or relationship matters that are such that they can't leave or don't want to leave where they live. So then you're sort of constrained to the geographic area around you. Although now in this new world where we can all Zoom from wherever we are, maybe that's a little bit different. But I would say this, if you have the ability to move, if your life circumstances are such that you can go anywhere, one thing I would suggest you do is apply to as many businesses as you can, because the more you know, it's sort of obvious that the more opportunities you say are there, and you say to these businesses, I'm here, do you want me? The more it increases your chance of getting a job. And I just had this discussion with the daughter of a friend, and she was asking me, should I pursue being an athletic trainer or should I pursue going into analytics? And I said, look, analytics are one of the areas that are growing. And teams are always going to have a certain number of trainers, maybe a couple more, a couple less within each team. But analytics are an area of the business that is growing. Social media is an area of the business that is growing. Technology is an area of the business that is growing. So I don't think sports is any different than any other business in that regard. Look at the areas of growth, because that's where the hiring is going to be. So to the extent it is within your skill set or a skill set you can learn or it interests you, figure out what areas are growing and focus on that.
Yeah, it's a great advice. And so I guess my next question is, you know, obviously the women in not just sports, but women in business, obviously this is something, you know, we just saw a report from college athletics where there are more athletic directors who are women, you know, and it's a slow churn, but at the end of the day, and by the way, my boss is on this call as well, Dr. Laura Persky, and I welcome her to this class. And I guess my question is twofold. What would you tell a young lady about you know, kind of how they should be? You know, you were very aggressive, made a cold call, and then, you know, you spoke your mind. And then what would you tell the young men here as well in terms of, listen, I mean, you know, obviously there are, you know, opportunities maybe for women, maybe for men. So how would you kind of put that into perspective?
Well, first of all, Laura, I saw that Manhattanville College logo behind you, and I thought, aha, Laura must be affiliated with the school. So yes. I'm glad to know I was, that was all those Nancy Drew books I read. I would say the same thing to women that I would say to men. You know, I'm often asked, you know, what advice would I give young women? And I start out by saying, the first two pieces of advice I give to women and men. There's no distinction in my mind. Number one, and this is the best advice I've ever received in my whole life, and it was from my mom, which is, to thine own self be true. And my mom told me that from the time I was a little girl. And it's important. Be you. The biggest mistakes, the biggest blunders I've ever made in life have been when I have tried to be something I'm not, when I've tried to be someone I'm not, when I've tried to pretend I'm something or someone I'm not. Be true to yourself. And the reason I say that is, whether you are a woman or a man, irrespective of any of your differences, there are going to be people who tell you how you should handle any given situation. Now, I will tell you how I handled situations, but I just want to be clear, just because something worked for me doesn't mean it's going to work for everybody. Be true to yourself. The second piece of advice I will give applies equally to men and women. Work hard. Work really, really hard. Hard work matters. It really matters. I can't tell you the number of times people have said to me, how do I get a job like yours? How do I put myself on a path or a trajectory to end up in the position you're in? And I would say, do you notice when you get here in the morning that my car is already in the parking lot? Just kind of this little blank look. And then I'd say, and do you notice when you go home at night, my car is still in the parking lot? Blank look. Hard work really, really matters. When you think you can't work hard, any harder than you're working, find a way to work harder, because it matters. And, I was once on a fireside chat with a woman who was the president of a bank. And it was a bank that was really, really, really important to us. And someone asked this question, and I was going on and on about working hard and hard work. And she stopped me and she put her arm on me and she said, "You mean work smart, not work hard, right?" And I thought for a minute, like, I cannot piss this lady off because we need this line of credit. But I thought about it and I said, no, I mean work hard. You hear that expression all the time now, work smart. Well, first of all, I don't even know what it means to work stupid. I mean, nobody wants to work dumb. So yeah, work smart, but work hard. They're not mutually exclusive. And the third piece of advice I will give specifically to women. I never spent one moment thinking about my gender. It never made sense to me. It still doesn't make sense to me that I should want to walk into a meeting room, whether it was a meeting of league team owners or a meeting of all the Raider owners or the municipal leaders, bankers, players, coaches. It just didn't make sense to me to walk into a meeting thinking about my gender if my expectation and my hope was that nobody in that room was thinking about my gender. I just didn't think it was, I thought it was kind of crazy for me to expect you, whoever the you is, not to be thinking about the fact that I'm a woman if I'm thinking about the fact that I'm a woman. The second piece of that is, I didn't want to waste my time. I mean, why am I going to waste my time thinking about my gender? If someone else wanted to waste their time, have at it, waste your time, because you know what? Advantage me. I did my job without thinking about my gender. And people ask me a lot, have I been tested? Was I tested? Am I tested because I'm a woman? And the answer is, I don't know if I was tested because I was a woman. I may have been tested because I was the youngest person in the group of people with whom I was working. I may have been tested because of my gender. Let's assume I was. Okay, let's assume I was tested because of my gender. You know what? People are tested all the time. They're tested because of their race, their ethnicity, their gender, their age, their educational background, their seniority. And I know this, the best thing to do when you're tested is to pass the damn test. So that's where I think you spend your energy. I don't think you spend your energy thinking, am I being tested? I think you spend your energy figuring out how to pass the damn test.
Yeah. Listen, I have a 6:43 Eastern. I told you we'd get you out of here, and you have 2 minutes. Rob, you're the professional interviewer. Any thoughts from you for Amy before we go?
No, I think it's been fantastic. Amy, I will say that you were spot on, and I tweeted this earlier about Joe Burrow. I will add that because I saw what you said back in October. So kudos to you, right on the money.
Well, and it's the kind of thing I tweeted, I talked about it on TV in October, that you really need to do a risk reward analysis when you're playing a rookie who's getting battered around as badly, or playing anybody. But Burrow was getting hit just crazy numbers of times. And I said, you got to do a risk reward analysis, a current versus future analysis. And all I will say is that's not the type of prediction you want to be right on. I would rather have been wrong and for him not to be hurt. And I hope he gets well fully and quickly.
Amen. And hope he gets well. But I have to share with you, Amy, I am a Jets fan. I grew up on Long Island. I was 8 years old when they won the Super Bowl, and Joe Namath. I mean, the goal really, and you guys, the Raiders, the goal was to take him out of the game and to take those knees out. So it is a different game, and now he would be more protected. But
well, I will tell you a quick Jet story since you're and I know, and I'm so sorry. I'm so rushed.
No.
And by the way, I apologize that I couldn't answer your earlier email. I was getting yelled at for not being on the radio, and I'm just really sorry I couldn't answer that. But so we played the Jets in Los Angeles. And it was my grandma's umpteenth birthday. I don't know what it was, but all our cousins came in from all across the country. And I have these cousins, an uncle and a cousin are huge, huge, huge Jets fans. And we're playing the Jets in the LA Coliseum. And after the game, we're all supposed to be going out for this huge dinner party for my grandma's birthday. And we were losing. The Jets were beating us. And being the mature person I am, I sent a note down to my husband in the stands. I had someone run it down. And I said, you tell them I'm not going to that. No, I don't think I said you tell them. I said, I'm not going to that fucking dinner if we lose this game. I'm just not going. You tell everybody I have to work. I'm not going to that fucking dinner. Well, we came back, and with time expiring, Vince Evans handed the ball to Nick Bell, who ran it in, and we won. And I sent another note saying, I'll see you at dinner. I can't wait to be there. See you soon, Grandma. I was not going to that dinner if the Jets beat us. And by the way, let me tell all of you guys who are going into sports, and I wish you all the very, very, very best for success. This is the fun of sports. Sports, it is a big business. And if you go into sports and you get the job you dream, you're going to be dealing with business financial issues and business legal issues and very, very, very big business issues with tremendous economic consequences. But you're also going to get to enjoy the passion of sports. And you're also going to get to act like the 5-year-old I acted like that day when I said, I'm not going to that fucking birthday party. The fun of sports is you're dealing with these tremendous business issues, legal issues, whether you're an agent or you work for a team or a league or you work for the sponsor or you're trying to sell sponsorships, whatever your role is, you get to have this passion and this fun. And I used to pinch myself at work and say, I have like the only job of all my friends where I get paid to have like ESPN on. I get to watch sports when I'm not in a meeting, and I get to act like a 5-year-old, and I get to figure out ways to rip things out and put them on the bulletin board in Kansas City when we're playing the Chiefs. So I hope you find the careers you dream of. I hope you succeed in every regard. And I hope you remember that it's okay to act like a 5-year-old at times.
Oh, good for you. Listen, we have to have you back on the radio show because we have on the big three, right? We've had a song from the big three, and also after you sign up here, I got to tell these guys about the Heidi game because they're too young. They don't know.
Right, they are.
About Heidi.
Update and maybe put do you guys have to take a final exam?
Not in this course. No, they have a final project they've been working on. Actually, it's your book. They've read your book and they've decided.
I didn't know that was the final project, but I did know, and I saw that beautiful, beautiful essay that I have to pull all-nighters on Saturday night
Nice.
I have to be in studio at 2 a.m. on Sunday morning, so I read it Saturday night, and it made me cry.
Well, it was one of our students, and it was
happy, sappy, mushy, gushy tears.
Oh, okay, good. Well, listen, you're the best. We love you, and happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you, and really good luck to all of you pursuing your dreams. And even if you get told no 99 times, just hold out because that 100th time may be your dream.
Amen. Thanks, Amy, so much.
Bye, guys.
Be in touch.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Of course, I forgot to record until halfway through, so.
Oh, no.
Dope. Yeah, I know. But that's why I have you, Rob. All right. So, yes, I did send her one of our better essays. I just wanted her to know what you guys are doing. And I'm very touched that she was touched by that. So you should be proud of those of you who obviously sent me the information on time. Uh, um, I think from here going forward, if obviously getting your stuff in is paramount. I'm not going to bust your chops too much right now because it's Thanksgiving week. I want you all to have a great Thanksgiving. Enjoy. I'll be back in touch with you sometime next week about, we only have a couple weeks left in the semester, so we might do maybe one more of these, maybe a fun one. Just no assignment, just fun. I'll send you an assignment on this tomorrow morning because I want to think about what she said and how I want you to respond to that. Any comments or thoughts while we're here?
Is there any way to get her contact info?
I will not do that. It's a good question. I mean, without her permission. So I will ask her if she's okay with that. If she is, I will forward it to you.
Dave,
Oh,
may I offer? Because she is fantastic on Twitter. So
Yeah, on Twitter, you can, yeah.
she'll respond to you on Twitter.
Yeah, she's very good on Twitter. She will definitely get back to you if you should all be following her on Twitter now that you
thank you.
really we've kind of built this
Definitely.
course around her. You've read her book. You've now heard from her, as well as just so Laura knows and Rob knows, we've heard from this is kind of our professional person. We've had the commission, the ECAC. We've had Dan, Doug Proman, the sports media advisors. So listen, I'm hoping you're getting a lot out of the course. And that's all I can say. I know it's very different because we're not in person, but it is what it is, and I, like I said, and unless there's any more questions, I just wanted to say to you guys, have a happy Thanksgiving, stay well, and just think about, I think there was a lot of good information here. So if that's it, then we'll just we'll sign off.
And go look up the Heidi game.
Oh, by the way, Rob is a big Steelers fan, so he's feeling his oats. That's right. Oh, the Heidi game. Yeah, we got to talk about the Heidi game. So, does anybody know about the Heidi game? Does anybody know what that means?
No.
I do.
All right, Rob, tell them about it.
Jets are playing the Raiders in Oakland, and it's late in the game. It's 68, right, Dave?
Yeah, late in the season. It's an important game.
Yeah, it's an important game. And NBC is broadcasting the game, and they have the kids' movie Heidi coming up. And the decision was made by NBC to cut out of the game with the Jets leading 32-29 late in the fourth quarter. It's only about
just taking the lead with under a minute left.
Right, there's under a minute to go. So NBC bails out of the game to go to the movie Heidi. Well, you can probably guess where this is going. The Raiders score not just once, sorry, Dave, but twice and win 43-32. NBC was besieged with phone calls. Their switchboard lit up like, Times Square. And so bad that it was on the nightly news the next night, and NBC made the broadcasters go back and record a voice over the highlights to finish the broadcast. It's research. It actually changed sports television, Dave.
It did, yeah. And at the end of the day, if you were a young Jets fan, 10 years old, and you think, oh, my team won, they just signed off the air, and you picked up the paper next day not knowing, and you looked at the score, you were like, what the heck is going on here?
Yeah. So, instead of winning by 3, you lost by 11.
Oh, my goodness. Well, only the Jets. Only the Jets, yeah. All right. Guys, anything else? Anybody? All right. Have a happy Thanksgiving. Stay well. Laura, thank you for joining us. We appreciate you taking the time. And
Thank
Rob,
you.
Yeah.
It was great.
Yeah, she's amazing. I could do 3 hours with that lady. She's
Yeah,
awesome.
she's great.
Yeah. And I'm sorry if I didn't get to ask you questions, guys. Obviously we just did rapid fire and wanted to just let her run with it. So your questions were all good. So thank you for that. All right.
All right.
Right.
Thanks, Dave.
Happy
Thank you.
Thanksgiving.
She was
Thank
great.
you all.
Thanksgiving.
Happy
Thank you.
Thanksgiving, guys.